nature friends, we're here out on the trail again. Come out to enjoy some of the fall colors today. It's a beautiful sunny day. And this section of trail is very forested. This is mostly all sugar maple here. Possibly almost entirely sugar maple, which tends to get a lot of color, but this year we're getting pretty muted colors because we had so much warm weather in September. And you really need the colder weather to bring out the bright colors. So there's a little bit. Let's see. It's mostly yellows and browns here. Pretty though. Stuff's starting to get pretty quiet. By this time of year, there's not a lot of bugs, flowers, all the stuff that you tend to look at in the summertime in terms of nature is starting to quiet down. Part of my goal in starting this channel, however, was to force myself to look more closely at nature and what's around at different times of year so that I could appreciate the winter months a little bit better, because I haven't, I struggle a little bit with the winter months and just trying to find stuff to look at. So this is going to be my challenge this year with the cooler months closing in. For those of you who don't know, poison ivy, here is some poison ivy. All this stuff here. It's starting to get a little bit of color here. You can see it's the leaves of 3, and they've all got these little teeth at the edges here of the leaves that, but they're smooth otherwise. It makes them fairly distinctive. They tend to be low growing, at least around here. I know they can vine some places. They tend to occur at the edge of forests, forest edges and along trail edges, which is kind of unfortunate in terms of encountering trail hikers, and when you're out and about, it's hard to avoid it. Yeah. Here's some hickory. This would be bitternut hickory with these really big leaves that are larger at the ends here than they are at the base. These are just starting to turn color, looking really pretty. This time of year, there's some caterpillars that are, they're called hickory tussock moth caterpillars, that are obviously big feeders on hickory and tend to start wandering out and about looking for places to build their cocoon and spend the winter. And so you'll often see them roaming, especially in September. We're starting to get a little bit late for them now, but we might encounter one. Of course, the one everyone knows is woolly bear caterpillar. They're out and about quite a lot at the moment. I saw several on the road on my way down here. Just splicing in one last thing here as I was heading back to the car. This guy crawling along. This is a woolly bear caterpillar, which I was mentioning. I'll put this in close to where I was talking about woolly bears. But these guys are the caterpillar form of the Isabella moth, and will spend the winter as obviously caterpillars, fuzzy caterpillars, and they've got so many hairs on them to help protect them against the cold, which is why they're so fuzzy. You may know the old wives' tale about the black and the brown representing how long winter is going to be. Not really any truth to that, except that the brown gets longer the longer that they have to feed. So longer Fall seasons will allow them to grow a little bit bigger, and it might mean for a shorter winter. They're cool, eh? I'm letting go. You can hear the crickets. Crickets will go late. It's one of the few insects that does hang around for a while through the cooler months, at least on the warmer days. It's quite cool today. I mean, quite cool relatively. It's about 16 degrees Celsius. Chip, what are you digging at? Stop. I don't know what he's digging at here. I don't know, grubs or smells something. All the leaves coming down, pretty color. This is buckthorn. All this stuff here. Buckthorn is an introduced species, and it tends to colonize edges, hedgerows, disturbed areas, and is very quick to spread. Can become quite a nuisance shrub, taking over areas. But it does have really good berries in the fall, and that it sometimes holds onto into the winter. I don't see any of these shrubs with berries, but they can be great for wildlife, especially birds. Robins and waxwings in particular are big fans of the berries. We often have big flocks of waxwings come through to the buckthorn that are near our house to eat the berries. So I'll leave the buckthorn in place because it is nice to have those birds coming through. This here is prickly ash, which I also thought was introduced and recently learned is actually native. You learn something new all the time when you're out paying attention to nature, especially if you're challenging the beliefs that you held for a long time, or where did you learn these things. I often try to go back and look up stuff that I believe, just to make sure that I haven't gotten the story wrong. Sometimes I do have things wrong, so I'll correct it if I do. It's so quiet. Don't hear any birds at all. See very few flowers. Here's a few flowers here. And this tiny little, most of this has been wooded, but there's this tiny little meadowy spot. Can you even call it a meadow? I don't know. You can see the remains. This time of year, most of what you're going to see are the remains of the flowers after they're done blooming. This one here is New England aster. There's just one flower left. Bunch of goldenrod. And here you can see this one here has a goldenrod. This is the last of tall thimbleweed. It's a type of anemone. What else have we got here? Oh, here's another tall thimbleweed that hasn't fully puffed out yet. Just starting to at the top there. Gets these little puffy seed areas. Here's a short goldenrod. This one is gray goldenrod, I think, field goldenrod. Yeah. Pretty sure this is a type of wild basil. It's in that family, anyway. Here's one too. That looks like mostly what I'm seeing. A white cedar here in the backdrop. You can see it's starting to turn color as well. Just something we don't tend to think of evergreens is doing, but the inner needles, the needles don't last forever, even though the tree itself stays green all year long. And they do drop the oldest needles in the fall, so you'll see the inner needles turning color, turning brown as they're preparing to drop them. They'll grow new growth from the ends of the branches in the spring. Oh, I just saw an autumn meadowhawk. Oh, there's a whole bunch here. I wonder if you'll be able to. Probably not. I'll walk a little bit farther. See them here? I can see them, but just little fluttery bits of fluttery wings with the sun glinting through them. Autumn meadowhawks are pretty much the last dragonflies to disappear in the air, and they'll be out on warm days, even like moderately warm, sunny days, right through to December in milder years. One of the few insects that I still reliably see in the fall. I'm looking for mushrooms. I haven't seen any mushrooms, which is a little unusual. But it has been fairly dry. And mushrooms tend to come out after wet spells. We had a really wet summer. There were tons of mushrooms out this summer. And they've mostly all disappeared at this point, except for the ones that are sort of present year-round. Oh, there's some more. I don't know if you can see that. There's some more dragonflies in here. Oh, you hear the chipmunk there? Chip just went up and surprised him. He was complaining. These rock walls here, I don't know how well you can see them in the video. It's a whole big stretch along here, along both sides. This used to be an old railway path, or railway track. And so there's portions of it that they had to blast out of the rocks. You get these neat cliff faces at the side here that get covered in moss and things like small ferns. Oops. You can see them a bit here, growing in the rock. It's kind of neat. We're gonna turn around. Come on. Come on. Time to go back and get the kids. Come on. Don't follow. Here he comes. Here he comes. Oh, to be a dog. This pretty grove of white birch here. That was lovely against the blue sky. Sometimes it's just nice to walk and observe stuff. I find it very relaxing for just when I'm having a stressful day or a stressful moment, just to get out and take it in, breathe in the fresh air. Come on. Here he comes. Well, this has been an interesting experiment. It's the first time I've tried to do any sort of commentary about a walk when there's been less to look at as the season's winding down. It's obviously something I'm going to have to practice a little bit, paying more attention. I feel I want to bore you all with discussions of every single tree species I'm seeing. But at the same time, that's about all there is left at this time of year, is the trees and the remains of the leaves. I suppose on guided nature walks, there would probably be, like if I'm leading a group of people, you would have discussions about people's lives or what's going on, stuff that isn't nature. Maybe I need to start getting into some of that in future videos. Something worth a try, or worth thinking about anyway. I can talk to y'all about how I got into nature and some of my nature experiences, tips on learning about nature, stuff like that. I don't know if that would interest people. Maybe, oh, you can hear a whole flock of golden-crowned kinglets here. Finally, some birds. Oh, I see them now. They're pretty cute little birds. They're like this big. They're slightly bigger than a hummingbird. I don't know how they spend the winters here. A lot of them do actually go further south where it's a bit milder. But many of them do spend the winter here. And they'll spend the cold nights huddled up together in like under evergreen boughs or tucked into woodpecker cavities or other cozy spaces like that where they can conserve heat. And they'll drop their core temperature to lower their metabolism to conserve energy, because it's also harder to find food in the winter. Pretty amazing little creatures, and the adaptations that many of these animals have. Here we are back in the woods again. This would be the place for mushrooms if I was going to see any. There's a few species like this. Here, this guy. This is, I don't know which one it is, but one of the ferns that stays evergreen all winter. So it's one of the early plants to start photosynthesizing in the spring as soon as the snow melts away. Come on, Chip, leave it. Pretty sparse undergrowth here. I don't know if that's due to deer browse, because deer can have quite an effect on forest floors. There's a lot of youngish saplings. Sort of have that bottom layer here where it's just like foot-tall saplings, and then you've got the tall trees, and there's no shrub layer in between, which is often a sign of heavy why am I having a brain moment here? Herbivore, that's the word I want. Herbivore browse in an area. And none of these little saplings will have a chance to get up to grow very tall. You can see through here the rock ledges again. And some of this stuff growing on them. We've got different mosses, and these are a type of lichen in here. This is a different type of moss. Two different species of moss. I think over here, not that you can see it very well, there's a type of spleen wort maybe. up on my mosses and other rock growing species. But they look really pretty. Well, we're just about back at the car again. It was just a short walk before I go to get the kids. So I'm going to wrap up there. But thanks for joining me again. I hope you found it interesting despite it being quiet. There's not a lot going on. It's still beautiful. It's still lovely being out. So there's always that. And yeah, if you have any interest in hearing some of my stories on my experience or just on being a naturalist, I'm happy to share them in the next video. You can leave me a comment down below to say, or tell me some of the stuff that you're seeing this week when you get out and about. And until then, I will see you next time in the next video. Bye!